So this is lab 8, and it's our first of 3 labs that are investigating selective media. And this first one, so selective media 1, is going to be focused on bioprospecting for starch degrading bacteria. So this is going to be a series of videos that will allow you to get through this first selective media lab. So before you start the lab, you'll want to disinfect all surfaces, wash your hands, and of course wear all the appropriate personal protective equipment that we've described previously.
Okay, so in this video, we're going to be discussing Laboratory 8, which is selective media. And so there's going to be several experiments with this. So this is the first of several that we're going to do. What you can see that I have laid out are the things that you need for the first day. So I've already poured, these are nutrient agar plates. And so that's been a standard practice. So these are poured, actually mine have been in the fridge, and so they've warmed up to room temperature. We have the dried cow manure. These are the conical vials, and so we need 4 of these. So they're the 15 ml conical vials. Spreaders, and then our usual sterile 2 ml pipettes along with pipette pump. Along with this, you're going to need your phosphate buffered saline. So this is in a 50 ml conical vial that we've been using every so often. And to measure this, we're going to need our 10 milliliter graduated cylinder. So those are the things that I have laid out. And then we're going to work our way through the procedure that is entitled preparing stock solutions. So this is on page 4 of selective media experiment number 1. So the first step is, again, getting these plates poured, these nutrient agar plates, which I've already done, and they're ready to go. And so now what we want to do is make a series of dilutions of the bacteria that are contained in this cow manure. All right, so I've already pre-labeled these. You won't be able to read my writing because it was not the best, but I have it's labeled as stock. And then each of these are similar to an experiment we've done before with the quantitation. These are going to be dilutions. So this is 10 to the minus 1, 10 to the minus 2, 10 to the minus 3. And in the information and the procedure, it asks you to put 10 milliliters of phosphate buffered saline in this one. So that's what I'm going to do first. Got a little too much in there. Spit. All right, and then I'm just going to cap that. So 10 milliliters is going to go in this first solution, in this first tube, excuse me. So that's 10 mils of phosphate buffered saline. This isn't called for immediately next in the procedure, but each of these remaining tubes, the 10 to the minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, each are going to get 9 milliliters. So measuring in the same way, we can use our graduated cylinder to get 9 milliliters. So we're not doing 10 this time. It's 10 in the first, but 9 in all the remaining tubes. So I'm going to get these measured right now as well. And you can see kind of what my method is. Once I've done them, I move them back in my rack that I have. So I have 2 more that I need to do. It's got a little too much in there. So again, we're using the graduated cylinder because it is much more accurate and precise than using the markings on the side of the tube. So I know there are markings on the side of the tube, but we're trying to be as careful as we can and to get the most accurate and precise measurements that we can. Back. And then this is our last one. So what we now have is a series of these conical vials, the 15 ml conical vials. They're all labeled and they have the appropriate volume in each. So 10 mils and then 9 in all the subsequent ones. So that will get us through this. This cow manure, you're supposed to use about a teaspoon amount. And so if you go to your original table of what you're supposed to have of this is more than a teaspoon. But I don't know if you necessarily need to measure it, but I just don't want to dirty a teaspoon of mine with cow manure, but transferring this might be a little tricky, so let's go ahead and use it. So this transfer is going to be a little messy.
So what I've done there is I've taken a piece of the wax paper that comes with parafilm, so not the parafilm itself, and I just fashioned it into a little bit of a funnel that allows me to pour the manure in a little easier than just the spoon trying to go directly into the tube itself. So it gets caught a little bit in that funnel, but if you kind of wiggle it around and if you have kind of a large enough hole in the bottom, it will eventually come out. You can see me kind of squeezing it in there to try to get most of that teaspoon into the actual tube. So do the best you can. If you have a little bit less or a little bit more, it's not a big deal, but you want around a teaspoon or so. So that's how I got it in there.
So now what you want to do is cap this and mix this and rehydrate this a little bit. Okay, so that's about as mixed as it's going to be. Now what we're going to do is transfer 1 milliliter from our stock to the next tube in the series. So now we just want to make sure the cap's good and tight on this one, and we're going to invert this just so it's mixed. I think it says 10 times in the procedure, but several times. You just want to make sure that the volume you just added is mixed thoroughly through there. Okay. And then we're going to repeat the process and take a milliliter from the 10 to the minus 1 tube, which we just made. Make sure that's capped. And we're going to add it to the next in the series, so our 10 to the minus 2. Make sure that's capped well. So then we're just going to invert this one. And now, of course, the last transfer, same thing, 1 milliliter. to the last tube. Let's make sure these are okay. This last one we're not going to transfer from, but we are going to use it, so make sure that one's mixed well too. So again, make sure the cap's on well, and then invert it several times. So now that's making the dilutions of the stock solution. So now what we want to do, as we've done in the past, is use these to inoculate our plates. So that's what we're going to do. The same procedure, we've done this in the past, and so we're going to use our transfer pipettes again, or the sterile pipettes, and we're going to transfer not 1 milliliter, but 0.1 milliliter. And so that's, it's a little hard to see on here, but that's just going to be one of these. It's about 1 centimeter in length. So in the reading, it says about 4 drops of this, and so that's what we're going to do. So make sure that you're just matching the tubes to the plates, okay? So that's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna take my first plate and add the volume as indicated, so 0.1 milliliter. So this first one is the stock. So I'm gonna drop some of that. And then this is where the sterile spreaders are used again. So rather than leaving that as just a puddle on the surface of the agar, you want to lift the lid. Again, try to maintain the lid covering it to prevent things from falling on your agar. So this is part of that aseptic technique that we've learned previously. And this one is now done. So now I'm going to move on to my 10 to the -1 tube. So same procedure, I'm gonna transfer .1. Then using a fresh sterile spreader, we will spread that one around as well. Oop, I opened the wrong end, but that's all right. And repeating the process. And we have one more to do. So this is the final dilution, our 10 to the -3. So again, transferring 0.1 milliliter. And then spreading it. as we have in the past, we're going to take these Petri dishes, we'll seal them with parafilm, and then they'll incubate for, I don't remember the number of days, probably 2 or 3 days before we do the next part of this procedure. So this is day 0, getting your culture started.
Once you finish this part of the lab, make sure you parafilm your plates, and they're going to incubate for 3 days before we move on to the next step. As with all the labs, you want to make sure you disinfect your surfaces and wash your hands when you're done. The stock tubes that you use to set up your plates are now finished, so you can dispose of them in the trash.